Praises to you all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining His Holiness Chandramauli Swami Maharaj's daily class. I welcome you all. Thank you for joining. And we are continuing with our Srimad Bhagavatam, study of second canto, fifth chapter, the cause of all causes. And today's verse is number 11. Hare Krishna Maharaj, my humble obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for your time and association for all of us. I'll share my screen again. For the verse here, Maharaj. Yes.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yena Sarochi Sa Vishvam Rohitam Rochayam Yaham Yatarkognir Yata Somo Yatarksha Grahataraka. Translation: I create after the Lord's creation by his personal effulgence known as the Brahma Jyoti. Just as when the sun manifests its fire, the moon, the firmament, and the influential planets and the twinkling stars also manifest their brightness. Purport. Lord Brahma said to Narada that his impression that Brahma was not the supreme authority in the creation was correct. Sometimes less intelligent men have the foolish impression that Brahma is the cause of all causes. But Narada wanted to clear the matter by the statements of Brahma, the supreme authority in the universe. As the decision of the Supreme Court of the state is final, assuming the judgment of Brahmaji, the supreme authority in the universe, is final in the Vedic process of acquiring knowledge. As we have already affirmed in the previous verse, Naradaji was a liberated soul. Therefore, he was not one of the less intelligent men who accept a false god or gods in their own ways. He represented himself as less intelligent and yet intelligently presented a doubt to be cleared by the supreme authority so that the uninformed might take note of it and be rightly informed about the intricacies of the creation of the Creator. In this verse, Brahma clears up the wrong impression held by the less intelligent and affirms that he creates the universal variegatedness after the creation by the glaring effulgence of Lord Krishna. Brahmaji has also separately given this statement in the Samhita known as Brahma Samhita, where he says, Yasya Prabhava Prabhado Jagananda Koti Koti Shashesha Vasudari Vibhuti Vinham Tad Brahma Niskalam Ananta Vishesha Bhutam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental body effulgent known as the Brahma Jyoti, which is unlimited, unfathomed, and all-pervasive, is the cause of the creation of unlimited numbers of planets, etc., within the varieties of climates and specific conditions of life. The same statement is in the Bhagavad Gita 14:27. Lord Krishna is the background of the Brahma Jyoti. Brahmanoli hi pratishtaham. In the Niruki, or Vedic dictionary, the import of pratishta is mentioned as that which establishes. So the Brahma Jyoti is not independent or self-sufficient. Lord Krishna is the ultimate creator of the Brahma Jyoti, mentioned in this verse as Swarochisa, or the effulgence of the transcendental body of the Lord. This Brahma Jyoti is all-pervading, and all creation is made possible by its power. Therefore, the Vedic hymns declare that everything that exists is being sustained by the Brahma Jyoti. Savam kalam idam Brahma. Therefore, the potency of all creation is the Brahmajyoti, and the same Brahmajyoti, unlimited and unfathomed, is established by the Lord. Therefore, the Lord, Sri Krishna, is ultimately the supreme cause of all creation. Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. One should not expect the Lord to create like a blacksmith with a hammer and other instruments. The Lord creates by his potencies. He has multifarious potencies. Parasya Shakti Vividhaya Suyate. Just as a small seed of a banyan fruit has the potency to create a big banyan tree, the Lord disseminates all varieties of seed by his potent Brahmajyoti Svarochisa, and the seeds are made to develop by the watering process of persons like Brahma. Brahma cannot create the seeds, but he manifests the seed into a tree. Just as a gardener helps plants and orchards to grow by the watering process. The example cited here of the sun is very appropriate. In the material world, the sun is the cause of all illumination, fire, electricity, the rays of the moon, etc. All luminaries in the sky are creations of the sun, and the sun is the creation of the Brahmajyoti, and the Brahmajyoti is the effulgence of the Lord. Thus, the ultimate cause of creation is the Lord. Umagyan timidandasya gina jana salakaya chaksu unmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pasyatya De Satarine Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Paevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So one may observe how things are going on and think that that is how they go on. In one sense, that is correct, but behind the activities that go on is the initiator and also the ingredient supplier. So unless we understand that, we will not understand that ultimately Krishna Sarva Karna Karnam. As mentioned in the Brahma Samhita, whatever cause is causing something to happen, there is the supreme cause behind that cause. Or you might say the remote cause, the unseen cause, and that is the Lord. And how does he do it? As it says here, Parasya Shakti Vihaya Suyate, Swabhavika Jnana Balakriya Cha. He does it through his energies. Brahma is one of his energies. He is an instrument for carrying out the will of the Lord in the form of manifesting the creation after everything has been given to Brahma to do the work. He's not the source of the ingredients that make up the creation, but he takes those ingredients and formulates them into different manifestations of forms, such as the bodies of the living entities throughout all of existence. So behind everything is Krishna. Therefore, one who understands this understands everything clearly. Even within the very remote and very simplistic activities that we perform each day, if you trace it back, you'll come to Krishna, if you trace it correctly, that is. Because Krishna is behind everything. Brahmano hi patishtaham. He is the source of the Brahmajyoti, which is the creating force of the entire material existence. And that Brahmajyoti is manifested through his energies as Lord Brahma. So it's not even so simplistic, that there is a remote cause and a apparent cause. Within the apparent cause, there are so many other causes that make up the apparent cause. Then we go back to the remote cause, which is Krishna. Because it says, Krishna says in the Bhagavatam, in the ninth, you will come across it in the ninth chapter of this canto. He said, before the creation, it is I that exist. During the manifestation, it is I that exists. And after the annihilation, it is I that remains. So he is everything. But everything in the terms of he manifests himself through his different energies. And the scientists and the, what we say, minusculous of observers see the actions, but they don't see behind, nor can they understand the cause of the actions. Just like they say, by chemical combinations, things manifest. It's like two people come together and create a child. But that's what they see, or that's what they can observe. But it's much more than that, because behind the actual appearance or the creation of the child, there is the spiritual energy. They can't see that. They think that the man fertilizes the womb of the wife, and then there is children. But if that was true, then every time people would come together, there would be children, but that is not always the case. Unless Krishna brings a soul into that combination, there is no life. So it is Krishna behind that that makes everything manifest. He brings in the soul, and then life begins. But so spirit is the motivating force behind everything material. Material we can observe, spiritual we cannot observe. But we can understand spiritual by the interactions of the material, that behind all of these interactions there is a initiator. And that is Krishna, and you might say Krishna's energies also, which are non-different than Krishna. Here, we think Narada wants to clear up this idea that Brahma is the actual source of creation. So what does he do? He asks questions that causes Brahma to reveal his actual position and his actual service to the Lord. There are people who think mistakenly that Brahma is the supreme person. There's those who think that Shiva is the supreme person. There's those who think that Agni Dev, the fire god, is the supreme person. But actually, all of these get their potencies to do the work of creation through Krishna and his direct spiritual energy, like that. For example, Hiranyakashipu, he was performing austerities to become immortal. And he was praying to the Supreme, and he was thinking that Supreme is the creator of the universe. So therefore, his prayers were going to Lord Brahma. Brahma was pleased by the austerities of Hiranyakashipu and congratulated him for such severe austerities. No one was able to perform such austerities. If you read about it, you'll see his austerities are impossible to even explain, what to speak about to perform. But when Brahma appeared to him, congratulated and asked him, you're worthy to receive a benediction. What do you want? He said, I want to become immortal. Brahma says, I can't give you that because I am also not immortal. In other words, unless a person has potency They cannot transfer that potency to another person. For instance, Prabhupada talks about how one mother, she was concerned, she had a young child who was somewhat diabetic, but the kid was attached to eating sweets, and this was causing distress for the mother. So she brought the mother to one sage, who was known as a very powerful sage. And she said, please instruct my son not to eat sweets. He said, my dear lady, please return after 4 days. So she was a little bewildered by his statement, but she accepted. And after 4 days, she came back with the boy. And then he said to the boy, don't eat sweets. And then she was a little bewildered. Why didn't you say that 4 days ago when I initially came? He said, because I was eating sweets. Therefore, I gave it up. So one cannot really inspire others on the same level unless one is practicing what they actually speak. We can speak sometimes beyond our level of understanding for the sake, but we always give reference to where those statements come from the spiritual master, from the Shastras, from Krishna, from the great sages. Then we can repeat in that way. But if we are not following what we speak, then our speech, our words have less potency. Although we speak the truth, still we have to give reference to the source. And that way, that brings in the potency of the statement. Srila Prabhupada was very diligent. By everything he said, he backed it up by Shastras. You listen to his classes, he's constantly quoting the Shastras, he's constantly quoting the previous acharyas in the statements he makes. He makes very profound and very hard to understand statements, but everything is authorized because he gives reference to perfect knowledge. So here, Narada wants to clear up the doubt that Brahma is not the supreme creator. He's presenting himself almost just like we saw with Arjuna. Arjuna was presenting himself as one who was just an ordinary soldier who didn't know what to do. But he was put in that situation in order for Krishna to speak eternal truths to the world in the form of the Bhagavad Gita. So many times the devotees will play the role, sometimes consciously and sometimes not aware, of being a person who is not really understanding what is the actual truth in order to hear from authority. And Brahma answers. Brahma doesn't say, well, it's actually me who's doing it, but since you asked, yeah, God is behind it. No, he immediately wants to glorify the Lord. He wants to put everything in a proper perspective so people will understand that he is simply, as we say, the secondary creator. He takes what Krishna manifests in the form of the creation, the creative ingredients. He formulates that into the different manifestations that make up the creative world. And everything comes through the Ramajyoti, which is the light from the body of Krishna, which contains all living entities within that. And all of Krishna's energies work through the Brahmajyoti and manifest themselves into different results of the creative material energy, like that. So, but the most important thing, and this ends, the purport is that Krishna Sarva Karna Karnam. And this has to be established. Maybe as devotees, we automatically assume that and we accept that. But there are many people who can't understand that, do not accept it, or give another person or reason, like they say sometimes, they say Narayan, who is the supreme within the Vaikuntha realm, is the cause of everything. He's not only the cause of everything, he's the cause of Krishna himself. But Rupa Goswami, in his Lagu Bhagavatamrita, spends verse after verse showing that although Narayan is the source, ultimately behind Narayan is a higher principle. So sometimes you see there is contradictory statements that are completely opposite each other. Like you should perform this puja in the morning. And then someone else, another shastra will say, you should perform this puja in the evening. So the same puja is being explained or stated in two different times of the day. So then you have to bring in relevant information from other sources to clear up the contradiction. And that's where we go to higher knowledge. And therefore, higher knowledge comes in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the Amalam Puranam, and of course, Brahma Samhita, which is more or less an expansions of Srimad Bhagavatam. So both of those scriptures, Brahma Samhita, which is quoted here, along with Srimad Bhagavatam, becomes just like if you want to find something out in the state, you may go to one person who is a resident of that state. But then again, he may not know everything. He may also present himself as being the knowledgeable one. But you may get either the wrong information or what is called half-truth. So the higher you go within the echelon of the state's rulers, when you come to the governor, who is ultimately the supreme head within the state, and you get actually what is the correct answer. So when we go to the source, then we get the answers. When we go to that which comes from the source, we get sometimes contradictions, which are correct, but appear to be contradictory. So everything has to be understood. That's why spiritual life is, what is that verse? Tarko pratishta srutinam vibinnam mahajano yena katasapanta, that a great sage is not a great sage unless they differ from other great sages. And then the final conclusion is, although the great sages differ from each other, Mahajano Yena Kata Sampanta, one has to follow in the path of the great souls, which is the Mahajans. And there are 12 Mahajans: Brahma, Narada, Shiva, Prahlad, Janaka, Bhishmadev, Yamaraj, who else? The four Kumaras. Like that, there are 12 personalities who make up the process by which one can understand the absolute truth. Mahajano Yena Kata Sampanta. Panta means path. One has to hear from the path of the Mahajans. And those who represent the Mahajans are also as good as the Mahajans, such as the bona fide spiritual masters. They don't create their own ideas, but sometimes great souls will, in order to bring about an understanding from a different angle of vision. Because spiritual knowledge, even material knowledge is not so easily understandable simply by reading it. One needs understanding and explanation and see how it applies. Just like when we are executing our devotional service, we give general statements for devotees. You chant your 16 rounds every day nicely. You read and hear Srimad Bhagavatam every day regularly. You take every opportunity to associate with and service Vaishnavas. And you take only food that is offered to Krishna, known as Krishna Prasadam. So these are some statements, but then you find within the many statements of guidance and instructions, there's personal statements that apply to a person's situation based on their entanglement within the material world, because people may be entangled differently, at least apparently, but there are general understandings of the principle of entanglement. But when giving instructions and guidance to someone, you have to be very specific and understand the situation. Many times people will present their situation in terms of the difficulties they have, but there may be many answers that apparently seem to be the correct answer. But unless you investigate more clearly and thoroughly, you will see that maybe there are other extenuating circumstances that need to be understood before one can actually apply the instructions. So these things are there both in the material, but especially in the spiritual, because spiritual is subtle. You can't understand spiritual simply by reading. You can to a certain degree, but application requires understanding like that. Okay, so just like we say chant 16 rounds, that's nice, but if you're chanting with offense, you will get hardly any benefit from chanting your 16 rounds. You'll get something, but hardly anything. Then we wonder why we say chant and be happy. Well, I'm chanting, but I'm not happy. Well, because you're still on the offensive stage. That's why. So therefore, specifics need to be explained in order to clarify the situation so persons can move forward in the understanding of devotional service. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Such a wonderful class. Thank you. Dear devotees, any questions or comments? You can please go ahead and please turn on your cameras if possible.
Okay, we have exactly 25 minutes for questions.
Yes, Maharaj. Sridevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my most humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Here, Guru Maharaj, in this purport, it is being explained that the Brahma Jyoti is the basis of creation. But elsewhere, I have read that it is the Pradhan and the Lord's glancing over the Pradhan, which agitates that material energy, and that's how creation begins. So I'm not able to understand this part here now being presented.
The Lord's glance is his Brahma Jyoti.
Oh.
In that glance contains the all of the living entities. It also contains the time factor. It also contains the manifestation of Lord Shiva. So all of these things are contained in the glance. It's not just, some light. It's much more. Nice question. Helps clarify. What is that glance that the Lord gives?
So in the Brahma Jyoti are all the living entities who have now resting in that Brahma Jyoti, waiting for the next creation to take place. And that glance is carried and brought to the material nature. And then secondary creator Brahma creates, like that, correct?
They say all the living entities are within the body of Mahavishnu. The glance is that force that transfers them to
Right.
into the Pradhan. And then, yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Maharaj. Rishabh Prabhuji, please go ahead. Rishabh
Rishabh,
Prabhu, please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, you hear me?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. This is Stefan Humble Business. Gurudev and Vaishnavas. Maharaj, I have a question regarding that we have to connect with a source if we want to get the Shakti. You were giving the example of eating sweets. So is it possible that authority or some, let's say, some authority that you have that is giving you task, that he gives you a task that he doesn't do it himself, and that he can empower you in this way, even though he doesn't know how to do it himself? Is it possible?
well, unless he learns everything from another source and simply perfectly repeats, just like the temple president may be is the representative of the spiritual master for the devotee who's serving under the temple president. Therefore, if he's repeating the spiritual master, even though he may not be able to do it himself, he is in a position to give that knowledge.
And empowerment.
But if he also has the acumen or the ability, then that gives greater understanding to the instruction. But that is not always the case. But if he repeats perfectly, that's fine. But he has to repeat not from anyone, but from the authority. The authority is also working under authority. We're all working under different authorities, and the supreme authority ultimately is Krishna.
Is it like Prabhupada when he was giving instructions to start farms? Then he instructed his disciples to go and find this knowledge from someone that knows. So you get empowerment, but the knowledge itself you maybe will have to research yourself, like that. Is that also okay?
When Prabhupada gave reference to material activities, you mean?
Yeah, like farming or something.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, sometimes he did that. If you want to know how to, fix a plumbing, go to a plumber. You want to get medical advice, goes to an authorized doctor.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Amritanam Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances of glories to Srila Prabhupada. We talked about austerity, Guru Maharaj. So how much role does austerity play to get fixed on the path of bhakti?
Yeah, well, the four regulative principles are austerities. Without following them, you can't be fixed on the platform of bhakti. You're still committing sinful activities.
Because we have seen that the benefits we reap from austerity, by performing austerity, it may also sometimes become hurdle on the path of bhakti.
What is the question again? You're breaking up a little.
Yes,
So,
Mataji, can you please repeat?
I'm telling what role does austerity play when we want to get fixed on the path of bhakti, because the benefits that we get from austerity sometimes also becomes hurdle on this path.
Becomes what?
Becomes harder on this path.
Hurdle.
Burden.
Becomes what? I don't understand the last few words.
Burden. Maharaj, she's saying burden.
Obstacle.
Hurdle. Obstacle.
If you're performing authorized austerities in the right way, they're not obstacles. They get you off the bodily platform. That's what austerities are meant, to get you off the bodily platform and situate you towards the spiritual platform. And then when you execute the process, you don't fall back to the material platform, because the austerities keep you from falling down. Yeah, there are many austerities. Just read the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna speaks about austerities of the mind, austerities of the body, austerities of speech. And then we have the 4 regulative principles. To accept difficulty in relationship to one's execution of devotional service is another way to describe austerities. That's all. Well, one should not surreptitiously accept them some difficulty and then find they can't do it. One should get authorization or permission, guidance, when accepting austerities that are not recommended or not mentioned in the scriptures. Such as going out and preaching, that's an austerity.
So, Guru Maharaj, when we were in Govardhaniko village, we had a conversation about a farm community which was just based on austerity. So, how is that? So, I felt that austerity is not the only thing enough
No,
to.
it's not. No, it does. It has to lead to bhakti. And the people in the material world, just like people, they want to do some good for somebody, so they'll fast, although they'll perform some ritual in order to get some material benefit. So the non-devotees perform austerities also. People who are aspiring to be elected to office will give up a lot of their personal interests in order to campaign, in order to get that office. That's a kind of austerity. But that's material.
Okay, so we have to understand the difference.
Yeah, the austerities that lead us onto the path of bhakti, that keep us on the path of bhakti.
Right. Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for the clarification. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Rishabh Prabhu, you have another question?
Yes, if possible. So the devotees will always try to improve their service, try to do it better, try to do it more proficiently. So I just want to ask Maharaj, when are we actually going too much and doing mental speculation, and when should we draw the line and said, okay, this is too far or too much?
Takes intelligence. Not everybody's going to hand you everything at every second. You have to use your intelligence how to apply the activities in devotional service. If your Krishna consciousness is going down, that means you're outside of the proper understanding of how to perform the activities. Or you're taking on too much which you cannot handle, which may cause your Krishna consciousness to be, damaged or impinged upon. That requires some intelligence. And of course, advice is always recommended.
Is it maybe also that when we focus too much on externals, and then we are kind of we neglect the mood and the attitude? This is also one of the ways to.
The mood, the attitude, which is pretty much the same, is that this is being offered to Krishna. Krishna says, Yat karosi aranasi, yatahosi dadasi, yatapasi tu kunte, yatat kurushanamarpanam. All that you do, all that you eat, as well as all austerities you may perform, should be done as an offering to me. There are people perform austerities in order to gain something material, even in Krishna consciousness. I want to get that position as being the temple president, so I'll perform some austerities, which will help me, achieve that situation. That's material. So you can adopt certain material desires within the realm of Krishna consciousness, which are not offerings to Krishna. They're simply meant to bring you a better material situation, or what you consider to be a better material situation. So everything should be done as an offering to Krishna. That means under the guidance of the spiritual master. Okay?
Yeah, everything is just focus of devotees to serve.
Yeah. Sri Devi.
Yes, Mataji, please go ahead. Sridevi Mataji.
Yeah, Guru Maharaj, I'm still thinking about Amrita Nam's question and your answer about austerity, because I remember at one point reading that Srila Prabhupada says, too much austerity can make one hard-hearted. So, would you kindly explain that to us, please?
That's simple. Yeah, it's simple. Too much austerity makes you hard-hearted. Therefore, do the recommended austerities that are mentioned in the scriptures or by the spiritual master. It's like, well, I'm going to chant 64 rounds a day. I'm going to eat only once a day. And I'm not going to, So, yeah, so you start adapting these really strong activities. And you're thinking, well, that'll make me more quicker advanced in Krishna consciousness. The advancement is seen by the activity and not by the purification of heart. Advancement doesn't come simply by the activity. The activity will lead to advancement, but unless it purifies the heart, softens the heart, then it will simply cause one to become, as it says, hard-hearted or insensitive. Okay?
Thank you, Mataji.
Again, you have to evaluate how you're performing devotional service. No one's going to be there every minute to tell you what to do. You take the instructions, you take the guidance, you take the examples of others, and you learn.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Know thyself is also a principle of advancement. To know what you can do nicely and what is beyond your ability.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that applies to your travel plans, right?
Thank you for saving me yet again, Guru Maharaj. I'm not going to try that.
It's noble what you want to do, but if the results are contrary, then what will you gain from that?
Right.
If
Yeah,
you can do the same austerity in one place rather than putting yourself into the difficulties of constant travel.
Right. Yes, Guru Maharaj, long ago you had warned me, don't let your enthusiasm overtake your intelligence. You had told me this long back. And I remembered it after your email to me.
Yeah, write that down.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. No intelligence, unfortunately. Thank you for supplying me with intelligence and guiding me.
Your
My humble
enthusiasm is good. And that's what makes Krishna consciousness. But you have to temper that by intelligence.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Did
you,
you
Guru.
any more questions before we go to Rishabh Prabhu again? I want to see if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, we're getting to the end here. Only have a few minutes left.
Yes, Maharaj.
You got Rishabh again. I think he's
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah.
popped up again.
Rishabh Prabhu, please go ahead.
That's good. Ask your question.
Maharaj, I was thinking regarding when you come to a more advanced stages, when you start to get Ruchi, Sakti, when you start to get the taste of Krishna consciousness, then it's like a mother having a child on the lap. She feels the burden of the weight of the child, but because of the joy of the child, she doesn't care for the burden. So is it that if we don't have the taste for Krishna consciousness, we put so much austerities on it, we become hard-hearted. But if we have the taste, then we put more, even if we put more austerities and we feel the burden of it because we are so joyful doing service for Krishna, it's overshadows it.
And it's not even austerity anymore.
Almost.
Yeah, it's just bhakti itself. We were discussing that yesterday. How at one stage of bhakti, it becomes the bhakta automatically is drawn by the experience of bhakti. And it's not about simply performing, it's actually a joyful expression. They're eager to serve, they like to serve, they enjoy service. Because they want to do more service. But that is a stage that is more or less when the devotional service becomes spontaneous. And that is the goal, actually. Unless we come to that goal, we will never reach the supreme goal.
So to be regulated and observant what we can until then. Until
You'll see devotees around it. They just love to serve. They're happy to serve. You can see that in them. It's not like a big chore for them. It's natural.
Thank you.
And that's true with all of us. When we get to a certain stage of bhakti where we purify the anarthas and then get fixed in the process of bhakti, which becomes natural.
So then, does spontaneous devotional service begin at Nishtha, Guru Maharaj, or Ruchi?
There's a discussion on that. Some people say Ruchi, some people say Ashakti. But there's indications on different levels. If you read Shiva Ram Maharaj's books, he explains these things, how certain elements of spontaneous devotional service appear at different times. But when it becomes manifested on the full level, it's mostly on the level of Ashakti. Supreme attachment for Krishna. But indications may also occur on a mature stage of Nishtha and of course in Ruchi also. Okay, so I think I'll have to depart. This is my schedule here at Govardhan Echo Village. We're required to go to the evening programs. So yeah, so we'll continue. This is a very philosophical part of the Gita, the Bhagavatam. It's interesting. We should know this. We shouldn't think this is not important because it's not Krishna's Leelas. it is very, very important to understand how everything manifests and who's behind the manifestation and how we can connect to the reality that ultimately, it's Krishna in all situations, whether direct or indirect. His hand is in everything.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much for such a wonderful class and nice question answer discussion by Sri Devi Mataji and Rishabh Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
so-
much for today's class. Hare
Yeah, we'll
Krishna.
all meet again tomorrow. Thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
I would suggest that devotees read the next verse
Yes,
so
ma'am.
they can be somewhat edified before we get into it. That way you're ready for the questions, you're ready for the discussions. Read the next verse, and then you'll be prepared for the next class, and you'll be able to understand more and also participate in the discussion.
Yes, Maharaj.
Because when you start discussing things, you start understanding easier and more clearly.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to request devotees to stay back if possible to do some japa. Maharaj, is it okay if I continue?
Yeah, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna.
much. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj.